Project Baltimore is brought to you by the Snyder Law Group.
A Baltimore City school convinces the federal government to give it $1.5 million, saying that money will make a huge difference in the lives of its students.
Instead, those students are looking for a new school next year. As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, that's raising serious questions about where that money went.
This is not just about where did the money go. It's about how did a school that's now being shut down get the money in the first place. Our investigation found the federal government may not have checked the facts before handing over more than $1 million of your tax dollars. But we did. 2:45 in the afternoon.
She's saying she's okay, but she don't know what's really coming up.
Dismissal at Northwood Uphold Community Academy, an elementary school in Northeast Baltimore.
I'm worried about my baby adapting. How long is it going to take her?
Parents like Michelle Robinson know tough times are ahead. Next month, this school is set to close. Robinson's daughter, like many of the 162 students here, doesn't yet have a school for September.
Where am I going to send my second grader, my soon-to-be second grader? There aren't any schools I'd like to send them to.
We're looking into private school, because this was my last choice for a public city school.
For many parents, the news came out of nowhere when in January, the School Board of Commissioners voted to close NACA.
Ranked in the bottom 5% of Title I schools, false again.
During the meeting, NACA's founder, Dr. Cecil Gray, tried to save his school. But the case against NACA was as overwhelming as the vote to shut it down.
Motion passes 8-1 with no abstentions.
North Avenue's review of NACA's charter was harsh. It labeled the school as not effective in test scores and governance. And it says, going back to 2015, quote, the school has a pattern of Title I non-compliance, which places the entire district's Title I award at risk. Title I funding is federal funding for schools in high-poverty areas. Why is this important? Because 1 year before that school board vote, NACA received a $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Department of Education. So as City Schools was saying NACA was not compliant with the federal government was awarding the school more than $1 million.
I don't find it terribly surprising.
City Schools told Fox 45 the feds don't contact them with questions before a grant is issued. Max Eden specializes in federal education policy at the Manhattan Institute, a center-right think tank.
I think Department of Education bureaucrats are generally known as kind of compliance box checkers, and thinking to fact check what they're being presented in a grant application is something that, you know, the ones I know, I can see it not really occurring to them.
Had the federal government checked some facts before issuing the grant, here's what else they may have learned about the school. Documents obtained by Fox 45 show in 2017, the year the grant was issued, NACA was reprimanded at least 3 times by North Avenue for non-compliance and unprofessional conduct. City Schools has publicly stated during board meetings that NACA has violated FERPA. The Federal Family Education Rights and Privacy Act has a history of non-compliance with contractual obligations and is not effective in managing grants. In 2016 and 17, NACA's high school had 0 students proficient in Algebra 1. But that's still not all. If the federal government had just Googled NACA, this comes up. A Project Baltimore investigation from 2017, 1 month before the grant was issued, that exposed serious allegations of grade changing at the school.
What I did, I put the grades in, and if someone changed the grades, then that was on them.
We had report cards and interviewed teachers who said students who failed required courses still graduated. How closely do you really think the Department of Education is looking at these applications?
Not closely enough to double check. I think it's all kind of part and parcel of the way that education governance works with the federal government.
The U.S. Department of Education declined an interview with Fox 45, but explained in a statement, all grant applications are reviewed to verify whether the applicant is eligible to receive a grant. Department staff review each application to verify the accuracy of the information. The DOE also conducts an entity risk review to verify the financial viability of the applicant and its satisfactory performance under other federal programs.
I'm just worried about my daughter adapting to the new school, that's all.
I think that it should be shut down.
And keep in mind, this year, the U.S. Department of Education will award nearly $500 million tax dollars in grants. The most deserving charter schools in America are supposed to get the money.
I can't imagine this is the only time it's happened. Is this happening a handful of times, 10% of the time, 30% of the time? Has anybody ever checked into this?
Now, we mentioned that the federal government does not contact city schools before issuing grants. The State Department of Education told us the same thing. The feds don't contact them either with questions. Maybe if the federal government had, they would have known about the problems at NACA before handing over that $1.5 million grant.
So, Chris, NACA is only the second school in Maryland to receive this grant, which is really hard to get, correct?
Yeah, it's really hard because there's hundreds of millions of dollars available. So the competition to get this grant, which is called the Replication and Expansion Grant, it's strong. So coming up on Monday, we're going to take you to the only other school in Maryland to ever get this grant and show you how that money was used. And we want to hear from you. Do you have a story, a follow the money story that you want us to investigate? Call our hotline, send me an email, go to foxbaltimore.com to follow our progress. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right, Chris, thank you.
Thank you.